Hello, my name is Lance Owyhee. I attend Owyhee Combined School, and I'm an 8th grader this year. Today, there is only one school in Duck Valley Reservation, but 100 years ago, there were 5 schools. This was because there was a lack of roads, and the reservation was split from the Shoshones and the Paiutes. The schools were open late fall and late spring, but when the calves needed to be branded, or hay needed to be cut and stacked, or wood needed to be chopped, school was closed. Then in the 1930s, a new teacher, Glenn Nutting, came to Owyhee and had an idea to make one school for the entire reservation. The school board agreed and hired him to be a principal and a teacher for $100 a month. Then he changed the name from Swain Indian School to Owyhee Combined School in the 1940s. He also made a high school program in 1947 because the school only went to the 8th grade. Until 1957, the school was independent, and then after that we joined up with Okokaini School District. Ted Howard is the tribe's cultural advisor, and he was a student at Owyhee Combined School.
People in my age group came to school. Most of us did not speak English. At home, Indian was the only language that was spoken, whether that be Shoshone or Paiute. And that was the only language we knew. So when we started school, we had to learn to speak English. In fact, during recess, a lot of times the teacher would get after us because we'd go back to talking Indian. And they were trying to teach us English. So, and of course, when we go home, you go back to speaking your language.
When Ted was a student, the kids played sports in the old rock gym. It was built in the 1930s, and it was one of the first buildings to have indoor plumbing. Basketball was the big sport during that time, but the elders were too afraid to go in the gym and watch the games. This because of the toilets. The elders never really had indoor plumbing and had never seen toilets, so they're afraid of falling in and never coming back. They stood outside the gym and watched the games through the windows. To get them to come inside, the principal and a policeman boarded up the windows. It took a while, but eventually the elders came in. The next gym was built in 1968, and believe it or not, it blew up in 1978. This happened because of a gas leak.
We heard this boom, and of course, sound travels slowly, so by the time we got the noise, the plume was way up in the air. And we thought, wow, what happened? So we probably wasn't there more than 2 or 3 more minutes, and we got in our vehicle and came over here to see what happened. And even the buildings across the street, the windows were broken from the concussion of the explosion, and some of the windows in the school on this side were broken as well. There was a freezer, according to some of the people that worked here, that was in the basement that was laying on top of the building. I don't know how that got up through everything, but it was quite an explosion.
Luckily, they didn't need to demolish the whole building, and they rebuilt the gym. The Owyhee School has given an education to generations of students here, but Ted believes the old knowledge still has value.
Let me go back to what, I don't know if all of you are familiar with Dr. Vine Deloria. He is a scholar who's gone now, but he was a friend of mine. But he was a scholar who taught at the University of Colorado at Boulder. But he used to point out to me that Western education has done a lot for the demise of our culture, he'd say, in our language, because there's so many different things that happen there, including boarding schools, that when the kids were taken and put in boarding schools, they were forbidden to speak their language. And that's where a lot of people started to lose their language, because they were forbidden to speak that. But I would say, our children need to try to get back to their language and culture. And in the Shoshone language, I would say, Mamanduro na sikaran dan newanadani wakana sikamarunichinor. Ishindami da shundahai. Sibasama andavi ni mamanda newanamans newananashi. Sang sa nduro na da soik sundani wakanda.